Okay, welcome back to the BeadALong. I hope you're ready to learn Peyote. All right, first thing I want to do is show you what a chart looks like. You generally will be given a bead chart like this, which has got the legend, just like on a map, if you've ever used a map, and then a color diagram or sometimes black and white diagram of what you're making. And then it'll have what's called the word chart. Now, what you do is, I'm using the red, white, and blue beads that you got in your kit. And you look at the legend, and number one spot is chalk white, and it doesn't always have to match the color or the name. So let's just say I'm doing this as red, white, and blue stripes. Let's just say you wanted to make it blue, green, and purple. That's fine. Put blue here, green here. You do not have to use the colors that are given. You don't even have to use the number of the delica. So for instance, this says opaque chalk white DB200, which is how we recognize a delica number. You could use 102, which is another white. You could use a gray. You could use a black. So whatever you want to put in that spot, this is what is suggested. So number one, number two is dark cranberry, and number three is the dark blue. Now, some people do use the word chart, and if you are a cross stitcher, you'll understand the word chart. The problem is that peyote, and I use this all the time in class, is like a zipper. Okay, if you do cross stitch or square stitch or any of the other stitches that you often will see in bead weaving, it is a square stitch, and it's square to square to square on side by side. Okay, same again with cross stitch. However, and needlepoint or crochet if you do any of those. However, you cannot use those charts unless you make adjustments, and for the most part they don't convert. And it's a little different because peyote is like a zipper. So it's an up bead and an up bead and an up bead and an up bead fitting into the down beads. And so they're at an off level. They're not square fitting straight across from each other. Okay. And so I always talk about how the up and the downs fill in each other. So let me show you how that works. I'll fold this in half so you can see it a little easier. Now on the word chart, in peyote, you will always have the first two rows as one, okay? Now, it will say left, right, left, right. To me, that really doesn't mean anything because when you're working, you always work from the, you always work from the right to the left. I had to think about that. But when you have them all laid out, you always flip your work, so it doesn't really matter which side you're working on. Okay, and what I mean by pulling the colors are, see if I can do this. I can't do it with the chart in the picture here. So in the chart it says 4 ones. So I'm going to use my scoop. You can use a fingernail. You can use fingernails. You can use a spoon. Some people use just a spoon. Okay, 4 twos and 4 threes. Let me show you where that's at. 4 number ones, 4 number twos, 4 number threes. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do the third row. So it says 2 number ones, 2 number threes, and 2 number twos. Okay, now one thing to always remember when you're pulling your rows, always start at the bottom and work up. Why? Because you have to then get the beads across. If you did it the other way, you'd have to go across the other rows, and your thread, your needle, anything can bump those rows and mix up the beads. If you start from the bottom and work up, your thread, your needle, your hands are always on the bottom working up towards the row, not overlapping it. So now let me show you how to do the stitch. Now, once again, this is a stitch that should not have any knots anywhere in it. I wrap my pinky, okay, 3, 4, 5 times, whatever you feel comfortable with, just enough so that the thread won't slide. That being said, you also do not want to cut off your circulation, so make sure that it is not that tight. Now, you always thread them like you're reading a book from left to right, no matter what row it is, no matter whether that says left or right. So we're going to add these on. The first 2 rows, you just literally add the beads onto the needle. Okay, and by the way, this pattern I'm doing is called 2 drop. Just means we're picking up 2 beads at a time, has nothing to do with the design of the pattern for the most part. However, if you have a 2-drop chart, you cannot do it single drop. You can go up to as many drops as you want. Normally about 3 drops is about as much as you want to do on anything that's going to be wearable. Something that's going to be like a piece of art or something, you can do 5 or 6 drops if you choose to, and the pattern works that way. So we now have our first and second row on there, which doesn't quite make any sense yet, but it will. We're going to pick up 2. Again, it's 2 drops from the next row. Okay. We're going to skip 2 and go in the next 2. Okay. Same thing with the next. Pick up 2, skip 2, and go in the next 2. Pick up 2, skip 2, and go in the next 2. So here is what it looks like when you pull it tight. See how they're stacking up against each other. Okay. Now, when I go to do my work, I'm actually going to now be working from the right, because that's where the thread is always going to be coming. And it's not going to flip over. There we go. From the right to the left. Let's go ahead and pull the next set of rows, and I'll show you what I mean. I usually do 5 rows at a time because that's easier to keep track of. Okay, so row 4 says 2, 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 1s. Row 5 says 2 2s, 2 1s, 2 3s. Row 6, 2 3s, 2 1s, and 2 2s. Row 7 says 2 3s, 2 2s, 2 1s. I'm going to move this up just a little because I'd rather you guys be able to see. Okay, and row 8 is 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s. So that is the next 5 rows. Now, the thread is coming out. Sorry, the thread is coming out on this side. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are, hang on, I'm looking back at something. Make sure I did it right. 2 1 2 2. Yep, okay. We want to make sure that we are on the right side. In this case, for this pattern, the two 2s are first. Okay, you'll see when we step up. Maybe I shouldn't have done a stripe. Okay, so if you're holding the pattern like this, okay, we're going to pick up 2 beads. And if you look at it, you see a down and an up, a down and an up. We're going to fill in the down and go through the up. Okay, when we pull this tight, okay, so we're going to pick up 2. We're going to fill in the down. Oh, and it got twisted when I was playing with the thread there. And go through the up. And that is part of the problem with the first couple rounds, is that it does get twisted and turned around. And right now I'm not holding it very well because of trying to show you guys in the video. Trying to keep it flat for you guys to see. There we go. Okay. So we're going to pick up 2. We're going to fill in the down and go through the up. And as you can see, there's a little stripey starting. Okay, turn your work over so that your thread is always coming out the right hand side to start the next row. Pick up 2, fill in the down, go through the up. Okay. Pick up the next two, fill in the down, go through the up. Fill in the down, and go through the up. Okay, now, what I normally do, turn your work, is go to the last stitch of the first stitch of that row, pull it out a little with my thumb and my finger, and then pull it tight. And that will line everything up. Okay, gonna do another row. Always picking up the beads, you always start from the left and go to the right. Threading them on, you always start where your thread is, which is on the right, and go to the left. I don't care what the chart says. If you flip your work each time, this is how it's going to work. Fill in the down and go through the up. Fill in the down, go through the up. Pull it tight, pull back on that first row and pull it tight. Turn your work. And look at that, what we're doing. Fill in the down, go through the up. Fill in the down, go through the up. Fill in the down, go through the up. Tighten your work, flip it over. Okay, this row I'm not going to talk through it, I'm just going to do it. And look what we have. Red, white, and blue stripes. Now, some of you will visualize how the pattern is working and know without needing a pattern that the next one is white, the next one is blue, the next one is red, and be able to turn it without using a pattern. Not everybody can do that. But this is the most basic and simple way to do peyote. Okay? Now, once again, just like we did on the herringbone, if you need to tie off, you never use a knot. Okay? You thread in your dead tail or your working tail if you have to start a new thread, and you follow the path. You go down a little ways. You make a circle. I generally try to do 2 circles at least. Sometimes, depending on the piece, I'll do 4 or 5 circles. It just kind of depends. Oops. And then, once you're done with your circles, you never leave the tail right near one of the circles. You always move it at least 1 or 2 stitches across. Pull your scissors or your cutters over and cut it. I don't want to cut that because I'm actually going to use this thread. Okay? So that's how you do peyote. Now, I will also show you, this is even count peyote. I will also show you how to do odd count peyote in 2 different ways. That'll be the next video. Okay? So, now you learn how to use the pattern. I suggest you only doing 4 or 5 rows at a time and mark. And then once you're done with pulling those rows, put OK. So you know that you've pulled those rows. And you don't, if something happens, you don't have to go back and try and figure out where you were at. Okay? I'll see you on the next video.